Since I'm having a hard time to actually find topics to talk about on this channel, I thought it would be the perfect time to rank all of the Mario Kart World tracks, since the game has been released for more than a month now and everybody has a good feeling on how the tracks actually drive. Now sadly, since this is the internet, I do feel like I have to do this disclaimer. Obviously, these are my opinions. If you feel different, you have the right to tell me so in the comments, but keep it chill, man, it's a video game. Starting at number 30 is Koopa Troopa Beach. Oh boy, this track is boring. It's just a circle, it's a glorified circle. I know it's an old map and it's a bit of nostalgia that comes with it, and the music is good and the general vibe as well. It really feels like a beach party. It isn't something I would say is a bad track. None of the tracks in this game are badly designed per se. But again, it's just a circle. I mean, you kind of have to take into account you drive 5 laps. That should basically just say it. If you need to drive more than 3 laps, it's a boring track. With one notable exception, that being Baby Park, but that entire park is surrounded on the idea that items cause mayhem, and on Koopa Troopa Beach, yeah, nothing happens. I really wish they would have leaned more into the thing of let's give us new enemies, or let's do something with the water. I don't know, you have water, just create waves or something, but it's just an empty circle. And also it's really short. Why couldn't they have been more creative with the remake? Because there are some tracks in this game that are remakes that you don't really recognize anymore because they have been rethought that much that it's basically an entirely new track at this point. Number 29 is Desert Hills. I do like the archaeology things they added on the sides of the tracks with the cool pictograms of the sun and toads riding Yoshis. That adds a flair to it, and I can mess with it. It's just that it's boring now. Compared to the original, it's too flat for me, and yeah, like they could have just added more. On the other side, though, I really like the walking and flying stones. Maybe they could have done more with these. Maybe they could have destroyed the track like you can see in the Mario Kart 8 tracks. But all in all, it's not really a good track. Next up is Mario Circuit, and that should be pretty obvious. It's an SNES track. We've had it way too many times. It's flat, it's boring. There's like one turn that's a bit challenging, but aside from that, it's just the same thing. And it's also a bit short. So like, yeah, that's definitely number 28. Next up is Moo Moo Meadows. Yeah, it's a track a lot of people like, and I can see why. It's not a bad track per se, and I do like cows. I definitely do. But I mean, it's been remade too many times. I'm fatigued. I've had enough Moo Moo Meadows. I've been playing it for the last 12 years. And it's not really rethought. Like, it is just a faithful remake. And that is a trend that continues throughout this game. Because I believe if it's a fan favorite, they didn't really have the guts to remake it that much because they feared backlash. Mario Bros. Circuit. It's a cool starter track. It's not that bland for one, and I do like it that we're not starting in a grass hills biome for once, or like a racing stadium. And of course this track has to be a bit easier because you need to get into the game. It's the first track you're racing when starting this game, so yeah, it's designed to be a bit easier. Sky High Sunday. Oh well, what should I say? It's still just an oval. It looks cool, it looks better than it did in 8, and it also drives better than in 8 because of all the rails and wall riding, but overall it's still very boring. Although I do see a lot of speedrun potential, so maybe for time trials this isn't as boring as it is for normal races. DK Spaceport. I mean, the course layout is boring. I know it's inspired by the arcade game, so it kind of has to be straights, but like you could have made something before that. The tracks pretty much start at the climb of the let's just say wall, and you could have made a bit more. I also feel like it's a bit short, but obviously it's then too long again to drive 2 laps on, so they again should have just added something before actually climbing. What I do love about it again is all of the references and sounds in the game. When you jump, then you get a cool sound, like you used to get in the arcade game, or for example the last lap has a cool soundtrack that sounds like the hammer item used to in the arcade game, so it's a very nice reference, but still I do think the track's a bit lacking. Also, maybe they could have done something with the rocket that's there, because it's just standing there, and I don't really get why DK takeoff is something, like why the rocket. Maybe I'm stupid, but yeah, I think they should have and could have done more with the rocket. Peach Stadium, well, it's a nice stadium course. It's better than the Mario Stadium from Mario Kart 8, I'd say, but it's still nothing that exciting. I think they could have done more with it, just because if you look closely, Peach's castle is in the middle of it, and maybe they could have, you know, done something where you drive into one window and come out of another one again, but I digress. I don't like Choco Mountain. I do have to say this, I think in Mario Kart World it looks horrendous. This has nothing to do with chocolate, this looks like mud or feces. The general idea of a mountain of chocolate is fantastical, so why does it have to look like a factory in the first place? We already have Toad's factory for that. I do like the addition of charging chucks. I think they do fit into that world, but then again, I do think that because it looks more like mud. And in my opinion, they would have just done better making an entire new track with charging chucks and mud. Salty Speedway in general is a cool track. I do like the idea of driving in Venice, and the only thing that really makes me dislike this track a bit is that it's so much water. I do not think the handling on water is good. I like the opposite, I think it's bad, and because of that I don't really like this track. Now there are tracks where I can say, yeah, I can excuse this, but this is mostly due to the track being wide enough so that your clumsiness can be adjusted for, but Salty Speedway is very, very narrow, so you can't really make any mistakes, and I might be incapable of driving this track because I just end up driving into every second wall or so. The same thing goes for Cheep Falls. But here I love the aesthetics even more. I love the Asian flair that this map has. I love the idea of a wild river with Cheeps jumping out of... I just think the entire track is a good idea, but I just, again, it's so clumsy to drive, especially if you're driving online and a lot of people are in the same position. It's a mess. Wario Stadium. Well, I kind of thought it would be lower on my list, but I do like it. First of all, the textures are a massive overhaul in comparison to Mario Kart 64. And I'm not only saying that when it comes to fidelity, but also due to the fact that the walls used to be just Wario's face over and over again. But in general, the track has had a good remake. It feels a lot more like Wario because it's not only mud anymore, but it's also this in-your-face thing where everything is so big and impressive, and there's flames and his face is everywhere, and there's like this big motor in the middle of the stadium that looks like Wario. Yeah, you can feel that this is his stadium. Whistletop Summit, I didn't very much like this one at the start, but it kind of grew on me. The train itself is cool because it's a variable you have to think about, because sometimes certain paths are blocked because of the train, so you have to adjust. And that means that you can't just learn one route and then drive that one over and over again. You actually have to know multiple ones. And especially online, if you get comboed, then you have to know even more, because you never know where the train will be exactly. Also, there's lots of rails, which is always good, because I like rails. Even though most of the time they're not really beneficial, it's always nice to have the option. And in general, I just must say, yeah, like the kind of ambiente that's there, that it kind of grew on me. Starview Peak is a massively underwhelming track. If you make a Mario Galaxy reference, I have high expectations, because Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2 are huge games. I love them, they're very close to my heart. So this kind of just being like a planned course where the spaceship, I mean, it's parked, but you can't really do anything with it, and in general, like the cool sections that are in the spaceship aren't really used in the normal driving, so yeah, it just feels bland. And by the way, the water section is really boring, so if you're already making a reference to Galaxy, maybe take some inspiration from the water races in Galaxy and add something like a looping, or maybe some like mantas that actually swim along with you. Yeah, I just think this is a missed opportunity for them, because they could have gone way bigger with this one. So it's a bit underwhelming, but nevertheless still a good course. Boo Cinema is surprisingly creative. If you're thinking about a ghost track, it'll mostly come down to a Luigi's Mansion reference, and at first I was like, yeah, why didn't they do that? But I kind of see like that you can't always make references to that, and as a standalone course, it's a new idea and I like it. I like the idea of going into the movie. The only reason that this track isn't higher is because I think the movie section lives off the wow, I'm inside of a movie, and not wow, this layout is so great, because it's mostly just half a turn. And yeah, they could have done a bit more. I think if they made some more interesting turns in there, and in general made it a bit longer maybe, then yeah, I'd really enjoy this. Next up is DK Pass, and I like this track, and from now on it's no longer really a do I like this track or don't I, it's more like which of these tracks do I like more. And DK Pass it's kind of like the same thing as it always has been, and like I already said, I think they were very hesitant to actually change this thing up. I do like the Shy Guys snowboarding. We're now missing the snowmen, but the snowboarding Shy Guys do kind of make up for it. I also like the snow cannons they added to make it feel like more a skiing resort than just a snowy pass you drive on. And I do like the newly added shortcut potential with all the poles, trees and rails. If you've ever seen a speedrun of that track, it's absurd. Wario Shipyard again is mostly water, but here I do like it because it's a bit wider. And you can also avoid the last water section if you're good at trick jumping from rail to rail. It's a bit more skill based, I'd say. And also just the feeling. Yeah, it's good. All the new decoration they added, it just sells the feeling even more that this is a shipyard. Next up is Toad's Factory. Toad's Factory kind of strikes me as a fan favorite I never really understood, because I like the course, but I don't really think that it's that good. I think it's a bit overhyped, to say it in other words. Yeah, hate me for that all you want. But nevertheless, it's a good track. Again, here I feel they should have changed a few more things. It's pretty much the same course as it always has been, and that's sad, because they had the opportunity to really change things up and maybe expand it. Also, most of the rails are really useless because you can't really use them in normal races. Most of the times they're just blocked off. So all of the new additions were like, oh cool, there's a path up there, come down to then you actually get up there and you can drive on the rail for 2 seconds and then you get put back on the track because the rail leads off the track. Speaking of new inventions, Peach Beach. This is exactly what I wanted to see. This is an old track we've had a couple of times, and they really changed it enough to make it feel like an entirely new one. The first lap is the same as it always has been, but after that you get into an entirely new section that they reimagined, and it also feels like the water driving was designed for that course, because the view you have on the water where you can see the castle and all of the Shy Guys on the jet skis, yeah, it's just magical. Crown City is also something that I feel we wouldn't have had without Mario Kart Tour. As much deserved hate as Mario Kart Tour gets, it also invented some things that are good, and these good things are costumes, which we now have, although not enough, and alternative routes. Alternative routes are best shown in Crown City. There are so many versions of this track. You basically never drive the same version. Knockout tours have different ones, and cups have different ones. It's best shown by the fact that this track shows up multiple times in a cup, and the only other track that does so is Peach Stadium, and yeah, I don't really see a justification for that one showing up twice, but Crown City definitely has one, because it's not the same track, although it's the same place. And this is exactly the sentiment I want to emphasize here. Crown City really feels like a city and not just a track. You can drive around way more than just on the track. Next up are the Acorn Heights, and the Acorn Heights are very, very nice from a design standpoint. There are lots of paths to choose from. I love the wigglers, I love the bees, I love the falling acorns, which are surprisingly hindering. I mean, they're still easy to avoid, but not as easy as it seems in the first place. The only criticism I have against this is that it's not as good as Wildwoods from Mario Kart 8, because that was my favorite track out of that game. But still, I'd say this is a very, very good track, and especially the biome that you don't drive on normally is also awesome. This is like one of the few exceptions I'd make for free roam, because normally I'd say it's not really worth it driving around, but if you really want to just explore something good, yeah, the jungle and the lava biome are definitely something you want to check out, because they're full of surprises and they look astonishing. Speaking of lava, Dry Bones Burnout. This is a track that I didn't really think we'd get, because it's, yeah, like we already had a Dry Bones track in Mario Kart 8, but then again it kind of makes sense. First of all, there are lots of twisty paths as well, which makes it really interesting. There are also a lot of rails, and there's a lot of lava, and the lots of lava are interesting here because in this game you can drive over lava if you have a mushroom. So this kind of makes it an interesting course and an interesting layout in the first place. But now to the aesthetics, this map looks a lot like a reference to the Dia de los Muertos. If you don't know, that's a Mexican festival. I'm not an expert on that, but I mean, the name is Day of the Dead, and as much as I understood, it's a day where you celebrate the dead people. Not like that they are dead, but like you celebrate what they achieved and what kind of people they were. And the interesting thing is, for the people who play Pokemon Go, there's actually an annual event specifically about this. So now, in retrospect, it kind of makes sense that they would also make a track about this, because Nintendo seems to be interested in these kinds of holidays. Great question mark block ruins. I already said once that I don't like the name because it's way too long, but I do very much like the track. It's cool. There are like these cool islands, they're all mysterious, overgrown, held together by chains, and it also really feels like a pun when you say mysterious and then it's islands about a block with a question mark on it. But it's, yeah, I just can't tell you I like it. I also like it because there's a lot of opportunities for shortcuts. You can just jump anywhere and then you can come back onto the track and it somehow works and saves time. It's insane. It's an insanely fun track to drive online and with friends. It's fun. Just, yeah, that's basically it. A track that is better than Great Question Mark Block Ruins is Dino Dino Jungle, because I think this track has gotten one of the biggest glow-ups in remake history. This track used to be a track where you had, I believe, one dinosaur that was actually on the racetrack and maybe like a few that flew around and were just decorative. But you used to have this dinosaur in the middle that would stomp, and on top you could bounce on his back, and that's it. It was just kind of like a stable hindrance. But now they move, they walk around the track, and there's actually multiple dinosaurs. They change. The dinosaur that stands in the middle of the track at the start changes per lap, which is interesting. They also changed out a path in the middle of the track for a dinosaur which you can rail ride on. And probably one of the coolest things is that in the near end section, where you're actually in the research facility, in the second lap, a T-Rex breaks through the walls and just starts screaming and running around. It's very cool. Of course, I do kind of feel obligated to put this track high, but this is not only because a lot of people like it, but it's also because it's a really good track. Airship Fortress. Airship Fortress, what can I say? They didn't change a lot about it, and again, that's kind of a criticism because I do feel they could have changed some things, but here I'm less angry about not changing too much because it's already a almost perfect track. They added a lot of rails which are cool to jump on actually, and they really improved the graphics, especially the interior of the ship has gotten a major improvement, and it all looks better, it feels better. The only criticism I have for this track is that at the end they improved the track by getting rid of the pit and just replacing it with a dirt patch. And I think the entire fun of the tower was that you had to hold left for like 10 seconds and then realize early enough that there's a pit and hard pivot to the right again. They kind of took out the fun a bit when it comes to the end, but still, it's a great remake. One of the best original tracks, and there aren't really that many, they could have done a bit more, is Faraway Oasis. This track, it's peak in almost every category. Having animals run around, that's peak. You drive on water, but the water actually, I don't know what they did, but it feels better. Maybe it's also wider, but it actually doesn't feel as bad. That's good. The end where you literally drive on a waterfall, that's an insane idea. And I haven't mentioned the music because the music in general is good in this game. But oh my goodness, what kind of soundtrack is this? This is just, it's an eargasm every time I hear this. This is bias. Yeah, I'm gonna call out and say this is bias. Not that the entire list was biased, but anyways, Shy Guy Bazaar. It's insane. I love this track so much. I love the aesthetics. They nailed it. They basically took what was good and improved it. The guy on the carpet is still there and flying better than ever. The rails fit this perfectly because it's crowded anyways. So having rails on top where you can jump from one rail to another, that's great. There's also kind of like rails that skip entire sections, and every time I drive this track I discover a new route. It's also one of the few tracks that have an alternative route which is not mentioned in the campaign, aka Knockout Tour and Grand Prix, at all. If you drive from Wario Stadium or Airship Fortress to Shy Guy Bazaar, you have to take the intermission, then you actually get an entirely different Shy Guy's Bazaar. This Shy Guy's Bazaar drives through the palace, and it's insane. It's really insane, and I don't get why they hid it, but it's one of the best intermissions. It's literally a hidden track. Let's now talk about, I'm gonna say it, the best Bowser's Castle in all Mario Kart's history. This is peak. It's just straight up everything done right. I can't imagine anything that is bad about this. Sure, the first half is a bit tamer. It's kind of like to get you into the Bowser's Castle mood, but the track doesn't have to be chaos all the way through. I'm okay with the first half being a bit more relaxed, also still difficult but relaxed, so that in the second half shit can hit the fan. Second half is driven on 200cc, or like these sections where you have constant boost. It's kind of like 200cc, but it's just insanely fun. You're very fast, you get shot up through a cloud and the lava beam, you drive through Bowser's mouth, and at the end meteors come crashing down on you and you fly into the finish line. There are very few Bowser's Castle that come close to this one, and it's like one thing that isn't really in the normal race but also makes this thing rank that high is just the fact that if you drive to it, like in an intermission, the epicness when you fly up towards it, it's insane. Like, you can't imagine if you haven't seen it. The Rainbow Road is really good. Like, really, really good. There are people out there saying it's the best Rainbow Road. I wouldn't go that far, but it's really, really good. The first part is a bit bland, but I'd say this is on purpose to get like the classic Rainbow Road into this track, because it seems like a compilation of all the Rainbow Roads so far. So the first third of the track is just normal Rainbow Road. You drive on it, it twists a bit, it makes sharp turns like you'd expect from an older Rainbow Road. Then it reveals an entire water section, and because this is wide enough, it actually feels amazing to drive on there. It's really cool, and also the way you glide onto that water feels amazing. And then obviously we cannot forget the space station. This is my favorite part. I have to say this, the space station is my favorite part of this Rainbow Road. Although a lot of people think this is the worst part one, I think this is peak. This is just, I love space stations. And also the surprise when you're like, oh wait, cool, yeah, now we're driving on water, and then all of a sudden you're shot straight up into the stratosphere. You see like literally the blue disappear and you're in outer space. That's insane. And obviously we cannot forget the moment where the last lap breaks on and you're literally diving towards the earth. This is epic. But again, Mario Kart 7 still has a better Rainbow Road. You're not gonna top that one, probably ever. A surprising first place is Dandelion Deaths. Who could have guessed from my outro song? I mean, it's always been this track, but this is the best one. What can I say? I love the Forest Kingdom references from Super Mario Odyssey. Like the entire metal, it looks like that. It's so cool that you actually drive on like these metal constructs that are corroding away. Then you just drive into a cave out of nowhere that's full with dandelions, which is kind of weird, but it looks great. And the soundtrack, it's just amazing. This was a longer video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, write me in the comments what I did wrong in your opinion. Would you change anything? Something like that. And see you next time.